Kansas City 50%, Bills 20%, Commanders 20%, Eagles 10%.
I don't hate that. I don't agree with that.
Playing the playoff game, I never once felt like, oh my gosh. The only difference is everyone in the media hypes it up. And you know that if you lose, you're going to Cancun.
Two times four. I like that. I'm using that. Hello, once again, you beautiful people. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is. But it's playoff football. I'm your boy, AJ Green. Wee. Think I got it on the pillow. Yep, got it on the pillow. Got my guy, Justin Pugh. We're still not in the stew. We're at the comfort of our own cribs. Talk to me, baby.
I love that intro today, man. That was like straight off of like the superstar status. You've been doing this show for a couple weeks now. You're a vet of the game. I'm glad to be back again for another episode. This last week's games were amazing. We got, the 4 teams left. I'm super excited to talk about these 4 teams left because there's a few that were like, yeah, they should be there. And there's one, maybe 2 that were like, damn, I was not expecting them.
We said it last week that if Jayden Daniels pulled it off, we was going to have a lot to talk about. I mean, I couldn't believe it. That's my dog, and I still couldn't believe it. Playoff football gets a little tricky. So, again, this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different than what we usually did in the regular season because it's not a regular episode. You know what I'm saying? Boom. Last week, we wrote down our Super Bowl predictions. We're not going to talk about who's still on track and who got cooked. We're not going to talk about that. Right now, I want to talk about the percentages of the remaining. Yeah, I got mine written down, too. We're going to talk about the percentages of the remaining 4 teams making it to the Super Bowl. So talk to us. I know you the stats man, you the numbers man. Let's crunch some numbers. Let's crunch some odds. Let's talk about the weather, the schemes, the fantasy. Let's talk.
All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give the team, and you're going to get the odds of them making to the playoffs, like 100% chance, 1% chance, 0% chance. So let's start with the first game this weekend. NFC East matchup. 3rd time these teams have faced. It's Commanders-Eagles. What are the odds the Commanders win this game and make it to the Super Bowl?
I think it's a 50-50 game, yes. After what I just watched against the Lions and after what I just watched against the Rams, this is a 50-50 game.
All right, so this is a 50-50 game. Actually, we're going to do it to win the whole thing, though, right? So it's 50-50 to win this. And then is it 50-50 to win the Super Bowl, or they're going to be the underdog in the Super Bowl? Yeah. That's what it is. We got to do who's going to win the Super Bowl. So,
but I mean, bro, I know I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but assuming the big red one make it to the Super Bowl, it's hard to talk odds talking about my homeboy because you're not betting, you're not talking odds against the Chiefs. You're talking odds against the league. You're talking odds against Vegas. Like, this is a tough one. So, 50-50. 50-50. Don't care.
Wow,
50-50.
you think the Commanders have a 50% chance of winning the Super Bowl?
I'm just going to help you out. I think everybody left in the game has the 50-50 chance of winning.
Well, so then they all got a 25% chance then, right? Like,
sure,
so the Eagles.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to have to give me the formula on that, the quadratic equation on that.
All right.
Find the Pythagorean theorem for that. Solve for X. I don't care.
I'm going with, man, if Jalen Hurts is hurt, though, that is the biggest predicament here that I'm in because if Hurts is actually can't move and can't use his legs at all and is a sitting duck in the pocket, I got to drop the Eagles' odds of winning. Damn.
Exactly.
This is
50-50.
tough.
Exactly. 50-50.
This
you
is
don't know.
tough.
Because what? He's probably going to be a game-time decision, right?
He's going to play. They're going to, they're going to give him some vitamins to get him out there. Like, he's getting the vitamins this week. I'm going Commanders 20% chance. I'm going Eagles. If Jalen Hurts is healthy, I'm going healthy Jalen Hurts. I need him healthy. He's not healthy. So I can't make up a world where he is healthy. I'm going Eagles a 10% chance to win because I don't think Jalen Hurts is healthy. I think they have the most talent of any team left in the playoffs. But if Jalen Hurts can't move, they don't have a chance to win. So I'm going 10%. So that leaves, that's only 30% coming out of the NFC. That means I think the AFC has the better teams. There's a 50% chance that the Kansas City Chiefs repeat 3 times. I can't go against, my homeboy is our guy. Like, look, Lamar was our guy. We lost Lamar, and we're going to talk about that later. And that means I'm leaving 20% left over for the Buffalo Bills. I think the Eagles have the least chance to win because if your star quarterback is not healthy, you can't win a Super Bowl.
All right, final numbers. Final percentages. Come on.
My official percentages are Kansas City 50%, Bills 20%, Commanders 20%, Eagles 10%.
I don't hate that. Oh, all right. I had to make sure the numbers was right. I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
You're adding them up?
I don't hate that. I don't agree with that, but that's also very likely. That's very possible. But now, these are my numbers. Eagles, 24%. Commanders, 24%. Who's left? Bills, 24%. And my homeboy and them, 28%. They get a slight edge just off the respect and the repeat and the magician, the sorcery. They get a slight edge.
You're a politician.
I'm not.
You're such a politician.
I'm not.
What are you running? You're running for governor?
Not at all. I mean, no. Because what are you saying? I'm just trying to be you're saying I'm just trying to be even? I'm trying to be equal? No, I'm not being equal because my prediction is in that envelope. My real prediction is in that envelope.
Okay. All right.
But when it comes to, we're talking percentages, we're talking odds, I'm a prize picks monster. I'm a sports bettor. Feel me? I'm a sports bettor. So all I'm saying is I'm not taking no money lines this week because I don't like none of them. Like, I don't think nobody's got a clear edge in these games. I don't. So that's why they got to all be relatively close on that bar graph.
Okay. All right. You're not, it's not crazy.
That's my opinion. That's Justin's opinion. Next, we're going to bring on today's guest is a two-time Super Bowl champion, Torrey Smith. One of my guys. Coach Tor.
Two-time. Talk to him. Two-time Torrey.
I like that. I'm using that. Two-time Torrey. Yeah.
All right, let's welcome today's guest, Torrey Smith, Maryland Terrapins, Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers, Eagles. I guess the first question, two-time Super Bowl champ.
Two-time Tor.
Torrey, this is the question. We had Golden Tate on last week, and he won a Super Bowl in Seattle. Then he went on to Detroit. Playing for a few teams, I had the Giants and I had the Cardinals. What team, when people ask you, like, all right, what's your squad? Who do you talk about first?
I mean, I always talk about where I started. I spent the most time in Baltimore my first 4 years, so it's easy to grow there. But the recency bias of it all is the Philadelphia Super Bowl was sooner. But if someone asks me, I'm giving this timeline. I'm telling them the whole nine because I'm definitely proud of the 4 teams that took a chance on me, gave me an opportunity to represent their organizations, and all of them are truly family to me. I'm not one of the guys that left a place and it was like, man, I hate these folks. You know what I mean? I'm holding a grudge. Like, no, I have a lot of love for, every team, including the 49ers who fired me. So it's all good, and I'm definitely grateful for, the teams I had the opportunity to play with.
All right, so we did a little bit of a game earlier on in this segment. There's obviously 4 teams remaining in the playoffs. Unfortunately, not your Baltimore Ravens. Look, I played for the Giants and Cardinals, so we didn't even get into the dance. But we played this game where we put moving on. I don't want my Giants fans coming after me. But we put a percentage on what percent chance that team has at winning a Super Bowl. So we can go through each 4. I'll let you think about it for a second. Should we tell him who we went with or let him do it kind of without?
Tell him after.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you a team, or AJ, you want to do it? You want to give them a team, and then you give us what percent chance you think they have at winning a Super Bowl.
All right, cool. So, boom. First, though, obviously it's top 4. Let's talk about Eagles. What's the percentage they got to win the Super Bowl?
I'm going to give them 40% no bias.
That's starting high. You only got 60% left to work with.
I mean, they're gonna get there, man. I think you have the opportunity to play against a team that you're very familiar with. When the Commanders beat them earlier in the year, Jayden was hurt. That's a completely different ball game if he's there and he's able to move around, which we have to hope that that's the case coming up here soon, being that he took a tough one towards the end of the game. But I think the Eagles have the better team. I do love what the Commanders are doing. I love everything that Jayden Daniels has added to the Commanders, and especially to the DMV community as a whole. He's actually giving people hope here. So, I'm a Virginia boy. in terms of going up there. I went to the University of Maryland. You're 20 minutes from where the Commanders play, so I'm very familiar with them just culturally, and it's an exciting thing. But the Eagles, to me, have the best roster overall remaining, and that even includes on the AFC side of things with the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think holistically, the Eagles are the best team standing. Now, best team doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, but I think they have the opportunity when you talk about the odds of being the favorite to get over the hump.
Okay, now let's go to the Commanders.
Commanders, man. The folks in DC gonna come after me heavy for this, but I already gave the Eagles 40%, so my math is a little bit low here. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and give them, because really, my math is so skewed here because I think it's gonna be Chiefs and Eagles. So because I think they're already gonna go there, I want to give them higher numbers to win it, right? I think those two are going to be the two, so I think it's naturally do that. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Chiefs 30%, which leaves me with, I'm talking about, 30 more left here. So that means I'm going to go ahead and split between the other two. So I'll give them 15% to the Commanders.
All right, so I think that's very, very spot on. I actually did a little bit different because I said, you can't knock off. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been knocked off yet.
The whole opposite.
I want 50% with the Chiefs. My biggest concern is I don't think Jalen's healthy. Watching him towards the end of that game, I don't know how healthy Jalen Hurts is. They are the most talented team. Saquon Barkley's probably the best player remaining in this. Maybe Patrick Mahomes has something to say about that, but Saquon Barkley can do it all. I'm just nervous about how healthy Jalen is. I just think you need the quarterback to win that big game, and you know better than anybody. So I actually went 50% Chiefs. I went 10% Eagles because of Jalen's injury, and then I went 20% Bills and Commanders.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. We're talking about 4 really good teams left here. And honestly, the Commanders, they're probably the most dangerous team. And the reason why I say that, there's no team that's more dangerous than one that no one feels like they belong, right? No one anticipated them being in this position. And that's extremely dangerous when you're talking about a team with a leader who doesn't hear or understand anything that haters like myself are saying from the outside. Right, his motto and his whole mode from the beginning was, "We're winning now." I don't know what developing means. I don't know what building means. I don't know what that means. If I'm strapping up my cleats, I'm expecting to win, and I think that's the culture that they've shifted there with their coaches. They've done a great job delivering that message, and it's played out in their players. They expect to win, so they're extremely dangerous. Their odds are low to me, but they can go out there and they can win, especially when it comes to divisional rivals. No one knows each other better in this playoffs than the Eagles and the Commanders. They've already played each other twice.
The Chiefs and Bills is best friends.
They best friends, but it's different when you guaranteed to play twice a year. Playing in that division is a different mindset, and I think you almost throw out all the trends, right? When it comes down to divisional games, rivalry-type games, you throw out the trends. It's about who's going to get it done in physical fashion that day, and that's why I'm still leaning towards the Eagles, because if you have to rely on the trenches or if the weather is bad and it neutralizes things, you have Saquon Barkley, who's probably going to be our offensive player of the year. And I think that's what gets the nod for me.
Okay. It's very respectable right there.
All right, AJ, who you give your breakdown, Mr. Politician.
Man, yeah, I went 28% Chiefs. Okay. And then 24% for everybody else. I just feel like right now, the way everybody's playing, it's really going to be who shows up today. You know what I mean? Everybody looks good, but also everybody also has that but factor involved. They can win this game, but if Jalen Hurts, the Chiefs can win this game, but if Josh Allen comes to, you know what I mean? There's a lot of buts out there, so I'm gonna keep these bar graphs close.
I'm not even gonna say that's political though, man, because you talk about any team can win, right? Any given Sunday period. And they're all very good teams. And the number one thing that stands out that every fan needs to understand is they have franchise caliber quarterbacks, right? Quarterbacks that you can win because they're your quarterback, not just simply because they're on your team. There's a difference in that, right? There's certain quarterbacks that play in this league where to borrow my man Cam Newton's words, they're kind of game managers, right? They may not make too many mistakes, but they're not going to be the reason why you win. The 4 guys remaining at the quarterback position can 1,000% be the reason why their team gets over the hump. So it's very interesting. So to call everyone kind of even, solid defenses left, I mean, I respect that. And you have Patrick Mahomes, who will be the ringer because he's still the baddest dude left when it comes to the quarterback position. Even though Josh Allen has played at the MVP type level, when it boils down to it and it's crunch time, he has that Tom Brady gene there, in Patrick Mahomes when it comes to just being ready when the moment presents itself.
And just to stick with that same theme of quarterbacks and getting over the hump, I know you know where I'm going. What is it going to take to get Lamar Jackson into the Super Bowl?
Man, it's tough, man. Like, I tell people all the time, and I think Lamar is definitely unfairly criticized because there's only one quarterback that wins every year. So it's 31 losers every single year, and everyone should get the same type of heat. But Lamar is the best football player, period, in the league, right? So there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, and especially with him being the MVP this season again, 3 in a row, right? It's wild what he's doing out there. But I think the biggest thing is just being consistent in the moment. I'm not a person that says, I've seen all the headlines and Lamar's in the playoffs, he's different. No, he's not. He's the same player, right? The mistakes that he made with the fumble, Lamar has done plays like that in the past where he may slip out of it and go for 50, right? It was a little careless. The ball was a little bit different in those conditions, and it slipped out. Great play by the defense. Von Miller scooped it up, ran down the field. But that's a turnover that you can't have. It's almost like, man, just go down, take it, live to fight another day. But you can't knock it like Lamar's the only reason why they lost, even though his 2 turnovers led to points. It's huge. It takes everyone. And just like Mark Andrews is not the reason why this team lost. Yes, he turned the ball over in a fumble. That's tough, right? If you have 3 turnovers in a game, you're probably not going to win, right? That's one of the easiest metrics to determine who's going to win or lose a football game. And the Ravens were on the losing side of that turnover battle. But then when you have, on the other side of that picture, you have Lamar Jackson driving down the field. They're down 8. They scored a touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion, and he makes a throw. Could the throw have been a little bit better? Yes. Mark Andrews also makes that catch 9 times out of 10, and he doesn't make it. So now we're talking about Lamar leading his team back. Now they go into overtime. Does the conversation shift? Right? So the what happened in terms of the end result, the loss, doesn't tell the full picture of him overcoming the mistakes and actually putting his team in position to win. They just didn't make the play. That's why I say winning is a team statistic. It's not a quarterback statistic. Because Tom Brady wouldn't have a Super Bowl if they would have handed the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. Right? It would have been simple. That's one less number that he has. So it takes everyone, and for Lamar to get over the hump, it's just simply about being who he consistently is. There's no quarterback that wins more than Lamar Jackson. So there's no difference in the playoffs and the regular season when it comes to the actual game. You just can't blow it on that day. And I'm telling you from experience, right? Playing the playoff game, I never once felt like, oh my gosh, I got to play at this level. Man, this is a football game. The only difference is everyone in the media hypes it up. And you know that if you lose, you're going to Cancun. That's it. Otherwise, it's all the same. And I think understanding that there's no quarterback that wins more than Lamar, so Lamar can be a guy that can get to the Super Bowl and win it.
And you kind of alluded to it when you said it earlier. Lamar Jackson is me and AJ have talked about this on the show. Lamar Jackson's the MVP?
Absolutely. And I don't think it's close. I really don't. I think Josh Allen has had a phenomenal year. And by the way, Bills fans think if you say Lamar's the MVP, then you hate Josh Allen. Josh Allen is actually one of my favorite people. Sat next to him at the NFL Honors the whole time one year. Aaron Rodgers on one side, Josh on the other side, chopping it up. Really good dudes. First of all, I don't know why that was my seat, but they were really good dudes to kick it with. And for Josh, I think he's one of the faces of this league, right? But it's not a knock on him. Any other year, Josh Allen is the shoo-in to be MVP. But Lamar has had an unprecedented year. Right? With what he's done with his legs, with what he's done with his arms, with how he's protected it, you can make the argument that he's thrown those 4 picks, but really only one of them were his fault. Right? The other ones were tip passes. And it's an unbelievable stat to look at that in his quarterback rating. And he had every metric. If you look at the quarterback position, Lamar was first in every metric, and now people are saying, well, Lamar has more weapons than Josh Allen. Well, I'm old enough to know and to live in an area where the fans say the Ravens receivers stink. They don't have receivers. And now Zay did have a big year getting over 1,000 yards, and Rashad Bateman has always been sweet, and I've been a big fan of him. And you get Derrick Henry, and now they're like, oh, well, they're only doing that because of Derrick Henry. Well, how about you watch actual film, and you'll see that Lamar benefits Derrick Henry the same way Derrick Henry benefits the offense, right? And the goal is to have the best team possible. And Lamar has done a great job of doing that. And Lamar was also the unanimous MVP with a team that, quote unquote, didn't have weapons. So I think when you go out there and you prove who you are, people have been moving the goalposts. MVP, if we all go, AJ, to a youth football tournament this weekend, we're not going to say, man, this kid's team's worse, but he's the best player on the field. No. He's the big dog out here right now, regardless of who, whether his team has less or more, he's the man. And that's been Lamar Jackson this year, and I don't think it's close.
So would you go ahead and say that he's the best Ravens quarterback of all time?
I think you have to, right? Like, I love my man Joe Flacco. But, Lamar's, and you're going to have fans, and I get they're going to say, well, Joe won a Super Bowl. You ask me who's the best quarterback. I don't care about who played on the best team that got to the Super Bowl. He's going to have 3 MVPs. I sound like a fool to say this isn't the best quarterback to come through there, period. Right? Winning is, I don't want to disrespect some of the legends when I say this, but the Baltimore Ravens won with the quarterback in Trent Dilfer, who wasn't throwing for 4,000 yards. They had a great team, and he did his job leading and managing the team. Just because you win the Super Bowl doesn't make you a better quarterback. It's that simple.
Now let's hop into this playoff predictions. You mentioned you got the Eagles coming out of the NFC. You got the Chiefs coming out of the AFC. How do you see this matchup in the Super Bowl playing out if that's the case?
Man, not to jinx the guys who look too far ahead, but I think it's going to be a battle, with the Commanders to get to it, to get out of there, right? I think it is going to be a battle with the Commanders. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout. I think it could be if the Eagles come out and they dominate the trenches like they can with Saquon Barkley and that offensive line running downhill, and also with Jalen Carter at defensive tackle being top 2 or 3 at the position. You could say top 1 with some of the stuff he's doing. That defensive front of the Eagles has been dominating teams. If they're able to do that, make the Washington Commanders one-dimensional to where, Jayden Daniels has to use his legs a lot more, and they can't establish a run to help him with play action, just force him to throw down the field, you're not going to hold up versus that pass rush consistently, right? I always say, you show me a great defensive line, I'll show you a great secondary. That's why the Eagles have been able to balance it out, because the defensive line has helped their younger secondary. Again, it has a mixture of veterans and young cats step up because the defensive line has been so dominant. So the defensive line comes to play, I think they'll go out there and they'll dominate. And then on the flip side of that, you have the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills can win at any given point because Josh Allen, to me, is like Cam Newton. That type of superstar, big body, mobile, can make the throws. Josh Allen's a real star in this league, but Patrick Mahomes, man, he does this, right? He does this. This team, Andy Reid's going to have a couple weeks. He's probably already been preparing and dialing up some new plays for that Bills defense. And I think they're going to have some amazing plays that we haven't seen, and they're going to scheme these boys up pretty well. So I think the Chiefs are going to pull it off, and they get to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just like, a couple years ago, when they were there. I was at the Super Bowl, and, we forget that, Jalen Hurts is probably one bad holding call away from being a Super Bowl winner, right? And so I think this team could go toe for toe with them. And again, it all boils down to the trenches. I don't care. We love the quarterbacks. We hype up the quarterbacks. They are amazing. I love them. I'm fans of them all, right? And I love them as people too. I would buy my son does actually have a Josh Allen jersey, but I would buy both of their jerseys for my kids because I love them as people away from the game that much. But the trenches tell the story, right? The quarterbacks can make the plays and get all the glory, but the trenches tell the story. It's going to boil down to who gets it done up front. And I think the Eagles overall have the better roster, even though this Kansas City Chiefs team is battle-tested and can go out there and win it under any circumstance.
All three of us gave the Chiefs the statistical advantage heading into the Super Bowl before they even got to the Super Bowl. But now let's say the Chiefs do go 3-peat. What does that do for Patrick Mahomes' legacy?
I mean, it just goes to show that, he's a winner. I was debating this llast week with our 7-on-17 Level 82 at the Airbnb. Everyone was like, he's the greatest. And I'm like, winning is a team stat, right? I think as much as it speaks to the quarterback and Patrick Mahomes, it also speaks to Andy Reid and that organization. Yeah. right? Winning alone is not a quarterback stat, right? But if you're in position and you get it done, you have to get your credibility because he has made the plays to help his team get over the hump when it's presented himself. But that just goes to show the power of the organization. That's dynasty type levels to go and to lead with 3 of them. And I could just only think of the one that I witnessed firsthand going against the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick. You knew they were going to be well coached. You knew it was going to be a battle. You knew they were going to try to take away what you do best. And that team was phenomenal. And I think we're witnessing that same thing here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Whether they get to it, whether they win it or not, year in, year out, they stand a chance because of their coach, because of their quarterback, and because of their roster. So that's really everyone kind of getting their roses to show, how good they're doing things. And I think the Chiefs, when you talk about the gold standard in this league, they're obviously the top dogs right now.
Well, you are a 2-time Super Bowl champion. You have one with the Eagles, you have one with the Ravens. And from your perspective, what are some of the things people don't realize it takes to be a Super Bowl champion? You said it's a team sport. What's it take as a team to win one?
Oh, it takes everything. It's complicated, right? It takes really, first of all, starting off, the right amount roster-wise of veteran leaders and young guys. Because of the salary cap, you can't just buy your team like you can in college with NIL, which is free agency with no salary cap, right? In the league, there's that salary cap, so you need the right balance of veteran leaders and young guys. You need the room that people can check their egos. A guy may come in and he may be used to getting 20 rushing attempts or 10 targets a game as a receiver. That may not be your role on that team, but are you going to be comfortable doing what you have to do for your team to win? So egos have to go to the side. And also, everyone has to trust the leaders, right? And when I say trust the leaders, I'm not talking about players. I'm talking about the coaches, right? The head coach sets the standard for the team. They help deliver it out, and the players have to really buy in and believe the path that the coach believes is necessary for them to get there. When everyone's not on the same page, that's not saying the coaches are perfect, because you're going to have some moments where players may push back, but coaches have to be open to receiving that and moving forward, right? If the team if slowing down or they hit a slump. But I think when you have that, the ability to communicate with your coach in a way, right? I think that's huge. And I think when you have a culture where everyone's on the same page, it's completely different, right? I remember watching practice when I was in Baltimore, like, what off day, right? If your cleats were laced up, you were going, right? Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Haloti Ngata, those guys were working. If you weren't matching that work ethic, you stood out like a sore thumb and you weren't going to make it. Right. And I think having that type of culture of work and really driving home the vision that the coaches set and that the leaders kind of hold that standard, that's the difference. Right. I was talking to my young guys the other day they were talking about hazing and things like that. I'm like, man, these teams that are really good, they're worried about winning. They're not worried about having you being uncomfortable in that building. And I think people sometimes forget the human element of it, even though folks are adults, that it's work. All of us don't enjoy going to jobs where, we don't love all of our employees, right? We don't love all of our peers, but we know we had the same mission to get the job done. And the best teams that I've been on, which are those Super Bowl teams, obviously, because we got over the hump, is we were all on the same page, right? You can argue about things, hug it out, get on the same page and move forward. And the best teams have that character. And why is that important? Because when things get tough, you can't doubt that what you have isn't enough, that you don't have the answers, that your coach doesn't have the answers, and that you don't trust what he's calling. When you're on the same page, man, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I think you see that with all the teams that are standing.
I love that, man.
A lot of those quote graphics because you giving some beautiful answers.
Well, that probably leads to my next question, like getting involved in the coaching space, and I know you and AJ have a little bit in that space. You mentioned it a few times. Could you give a little like insight on what you have going now in the coaching space?
Yeah, first of all, I see AJ all the time. At different sporting events. He's doing an amazing job of having a pulse on what's going on, especially at the younger level where, I think the game is its purest. I think where the kids want it the most, highlighting them, having fun, and letting them love the game. I think AJ does a great job. He's one of the best in the business at that. But I think for myself, just having the opportunity to coach the kids, I use it as a vessel to help them to be better young men. Right, like I challenge them, I push them. I'm not an easy coach, right? I hold them to the standards. I talk to them about their effort, their attitude, and their execution last, but doing the right thing the first time. And I can take that for football, but I can also take that off the field too, right? Giving your best effort, having a good attitude, and doing the right thing the first time. That's a life skill. So for me, it's important to pour into the kids, to help them to learn from my mistakes. I made a whole lot of them. Tell them all the time, there's not a single mistake that you are going to make, even that I yell at you for, that I have not made. So I've been there, right? I want you to be better from it. I want you to understand that you got to push through it. And I think having the opportunity to teach young cats about the game through this beautiful game of football has been very rewarding for me in the tackle space with my son with the East Howard Jags, but also with Level 82 and what we do in 7-on-7. So it's really cool to see what's going on, and I love all the positive things that are happening with the game of football and all the people who are helping to push the game forward.
I just want to cut in real quick. With all these, former players going ahead and go lead college programs, do we see that in your future?
I would coach college. I got offered 3 more jobs the last few weeks, right? I would coach at a higher level, but my kids are 10, 8, and 6. So for me personally, I grew up with my folks not going to my games, not being present, right? And so I think for me, it's important to be around for my kids, because the thing about coaching that people don't acknowledge, and I really respect that about coaches, is that when you're coaching, you're pouring into someone's kids. You're giving them your heart. You're giving them your all. But the reality of it is, while you're pouring so much into them, you can't do as much to your own. And I'm not the best at balancing things in that way. So while I'm learning how to be a dad, while I'm learning how to try to be the best version I can be for them, I want to make sure I'm leading my own household in the right direction before I go and take the challenge of coaching and miss out on watching my kids, my boys, or my daughter, kind of compete and play and get going in their life.
No rookie quarterback has ever been to the Super Bowl. Is there a world where if Jayden Daniels goes to the Super Bowl, he gets Rookie of the Year and MVP?
Man, listen, you get there, you can win it. I'm a firm believer in that, man. Once you lace up, it doesn't matter, right? Anyone stands a chance. In the league, you cannot go in and feel like you're completely, like they're inferior to you. These are other grown men, right, getting paid millions of dollars. These cats can play. So even the worst teams, there's going to be something about them that's hard. I remember playing against the Cleveland Browns for years, and you were like, man, the Browns stink to everyone outside. But I can tell you what, their defense was nice for years, and they gave us problems, right? Like, it wasn't like you were always going to blow them out. Like, they were a tough team to play. So I think a team like Washington, who's confident, who not only feel like it, who know they belong at this point, that's a dangerous team. Absolutely. If they happen to be Philly, which I am hoping they don't, if they happen to be Philly, there's no reason to doubt that this team can't get it done, because they would have been battle tested. They've had the hardest route to get there, going on the road, knocking out the number 1 seed, then going on the road again, knocking out the number 2 seed. Who's to say they can't win it? At that point, you kind of almost switch to rooting for them if that's something that they were able to pull off.
Well, I think a lot of America was cheering for the Lions. I think a lot of people, they were like, no one really hates on the Lions. And me and AJ both said, that's kind of transferred over to the Commanders. I feel like the rest of America is cheering for the Commanders right now. But I want to take it back to Philadelphia, a place you played at. You won a Super Bowl. Paint that picture of what it was like winning in that city and how beautiful the fan base is in Philadelphia, if you're an Eagle, not a other team.
No, man, it was awesome having the opportunity to play in Philadelphia. The most passionate fan base in the league, period. I played with some great franchises. Everyone knows what Baltimore means to me. I'm heavily involved in the Baltimore community. I love the fan base here. Played in San Francisco, amazing fan base, large fan base. Carolina's a little bit smaller. But there is no fan base that's more passionate than the Philadelphia Eagles. And the metric I use is everyone's loud on game day, right? But I've never been in a place where if you call an Uber and if they're black, white, Hispanic, Indian, I don't care who they are, what they are, they're listening to sports radio. They love their Eagles. They love their Sixers. they will argue with you forever and they will hold you accountable, right? There is no fan base like the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. And I love that out of them, right? I think they're extremely passionate and they bring that to the stadium each and every week. And to see what it means in their family and their culture, it makes so much sense to see, and I love it. My wife's from outside of Philly in Conshohocken, so I was familiar with it before I played there. But having the opportunity to play there, to win a Super Bowl, to see what it meant to those folks, and then that parade, the parade was crazy, right? The parade in Baltimore was wild, but that parade in Philly, it was unbelievable. Like, just the passion. I mean, you're ducking from beer cans, flying all across the place. I mean, it was crazy just to see what it meant to that city. I remember one of my teammates, somebody handed them their loved ones' ashes and said, man, spread this throughout the parade. And he came up to me like, what do I do with this? I said, man, he said spread it. Go spread it. Right? You know what I mean? So it was crazy just to see what that meant to them, that someone thought so much to put their loved ones' ashes in the streets of Philadelphia during a parade for something they always prayed for and hoped for, and that we were able to be a part of. It was crazy to me. So, again, there's no fan base like the Philadelphia Eagles fan base.
AJ?
What?
Crazy.
I have never heard anything like that.
He was thrown off. And I was just like, man, I was like, do it. Like, I'm not going to lie. On my normal day-to-day life, I'm not going to sit here and say like that's something that I'd be like, man, hey, I'm your man for this job. Right? That's not true. But in that moment, I was like, someone thought to bring a part of that to the parade. Do you know how many weekends they spent with their family imagining and praying and hoping for this? And you were part of it? Like, man, walk the street, dump it out behind you. And that's exactly what happened.
That's amazing. I think for Philadelphia Eagles fans, that probably would be the number one way they would all ask to go. Have their ashes spread on a Super Bowl parade. All right, Jalen Hurts. There's probably some people out there waiting for that next moment. They're waiting, Jalen.
I hope I didn't spark anybody, dude. Y'all don't go doing that.
Absolutely. They said the next.
Oh my God. It was definitely a little
toss me up in there too. That is insane.
Out there doing the LeBron with their folks.
Yes, bro. The confetti starts shooting.
Oh man, I mean, it was definitely crazy. I remember him looking at me like, "What do I do?" I'm like, man, "Do it."
See, me loving YouTube, loving content, I would have pulled him up on the float, guy. You cheering next to me.
Hey, I'm from outside of Philadelphia as well, just north of the city, so I know how passionate those Eagles fans are. Who'd you grow up a fan of though, the Ravens or the Commanders?
Man, where I'm from in Virginia, man, everyone is split between the Cowboys and the Commanders, right? Growing up. So, for me, man, I was always the guy in the house that whoever was playing, I was rooting for the other team. So they always want to kick me out the living room, the older guys. And I was always just a fan of individual players. I used to like the Washington, but I wasn't like a major fan. I used to love the players. And
who were some of you guys growing up?
Mike Vick. I played quarterback growing up. Mike Vick was my favorite player. Barry Sanders was my favorite player, not only because of his running back ability, but I got a card one time. It was a rookie Barry Sanders card, and I actually opened a pack of cards, and I had a football card and a basketball card, and one of them was Barry Sanders, and one of them was Vince Carter. And so I kind of adopted both of them as like my favorite players, all from opening up a pack of cards and watching Barry Sanders, watching him play. And Vince Carter got my attention because I opened it and I read the back of the card and realized we had the same birthday. So he became my favorite player back then. And so it was really cool just to, kind of get connected to fandom through, trading cards and to see these guys now. Barry Sanders was the only player I've ever seen that was starstruck. I couldn't believe it.
That's a fun fact.
I'm like, this is Barry Sanders. It's Barry Sanders. Y'all like he was on my dresser since I was 5. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I was so scared to go talk to him. I had to ask somebody else to talk to him first. I was like, should I go talk to him? And he was like, man, let's go say what's up to him. And I was like, what if he says no? Like, you know what I mean? I was nervous. And I went up to him, and I actually had a guy that's like an uncle to me. used to work for the University of Maryland, Kevin Glover. He actually was Barry Sanders' center when he was in the league, but he was a part of player development at the University of Maryland. So being at Maryland, he used to give me Barry Sanders stories that made his legend grow so much more than the little kid that just had the card. Because I learned, like, no, this is really a good man. And that completely changed the way I viewed him. So, yeah, I'm a big Barry Sanders guy.
Torrey, man, I appreciate your time here. Thank you for coming to talk to us. I like all 4 teams remaining. We heard your opinions. Y'all already heard our opinions. Make sure y'all stay in the comments. Let me know y'all opinions. Justin, you got anything for us?
Torrey, man, once your children are growing, they're out of the house. Me and AJ are coming to whatever school you're coaching at, man. Yeah, so just keep a spot for us.
Let's do it.
Right now, we're going to jump into looking downfield. Usually, we really are looking downfield. We still are, but we're going to do it by looking at their past performances last week.
We're going to do a little bit of both. What game do you want to start out with? Let's go Commanders, Eagles. Start out with that one.
How you going to ask me and think, all right, whatever. What game you want to do?
I pulled up the game, and that was the first one to pull up.
All right, what is it?
I don't want to be clicking around, trying to get some other stuff set up. So Commanders, Eagles. My take on this one is Commanders. I mean, I never thought in a million years the Commanders were going to upset the Lions. The Lions didn't have anybody on defense. They lost their starting cornerback at the beginning of the game. But despite all the injuries, the Commanders showed out. Jayden Daniels played a perfect game. Every big situation, he made a play. He was dropping in there to De'Ami Brown. Terry McLaurin had the screen. He takes it, breaks tackles. Brian Robinson Jr. running people over. Austin Eckler out of the backfield. Zach Ertz catching big 4th down conversions. Like, I was so impressed with the Commanders. And then they played like dogs on defense. Frankie Louvu KO'd Jared Goff. I don't think Jared Goff still is right. He knocked him out of that game. On that interception, and the Lions just try to do. They stay true to who they were, which I appreciate. They're running trick plays and throwing interceptions, trying to throw a reverse pass. It just wasn't the year, and I think the window is closing on those Detroit Lions. They're going to have next year to go do it, but man, this was the year. I feel for Detroit Lions fans because you do nothing but feel bad for Lions fans right now.
I feel like the Lions don't have any haters. Like, I feel like when certain teams lose, everyone's like, yes, pack them up. But it's like when the Lions lose, it's like, dang, they lost. Dang. I know.
The Lions have become America's team.
Man, I know when I came in from the beach and we cut the game on, we seen the score, we was just whoa. Didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? But right now, all that love for the Lions and got shifted over to the Commanders. Eagles fans are obnoxious. I got a couple in my friend groups.
Me
They're
too.
obnoxious. It's going to be I don't care what sports bar you walk into when the game's going on, someone's going to be cheering for these Eagles and proudly doing it. I like the Commanders in this game. I like the Eagles in this game, but
he just switched it up.
I won't be surprised if the Commanders win this game.
So I got to go back to what I said in the beginning of this episode. It all rests on Jalen Hurts. You're going to have to throw the ball to win in the playoffs. This Commanders front seven, I'm not going to say they're better than the Eagles because the Eagles offensive line is the best remaining offensive line in the playoffs. They're dominant. They're going to try to feed Saquon Barkley. Commanders, if you want a chance to win this game, you have to take Saquon Barkley out. Force Jalen Hurts to beat you throwing the ball. Not that he can't do it. Jalen Hurts did it in the Super Bowl a few years ago against Patrick Mahomes. But if he's a little nicked up and he can't go out there and be 100%, you want to force him to beat you. I am going to also roll with the Philadelphia Eagles because I think Jalen Hurts is going to come out there and overcome. I think that Saquon Barkley is... Nah, screw that. I'm going with the Commanders, man. I'm going with the hot hand. I'm switching it up. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be healthy. If he is healthy, I haven't seen it. So just like you switched it up on us and you went Commanders back to Eagles, I'm going Commanders to win this game. I think they have some magic going on right now. They're playing as a team. They're playing as a unit. A lot of those things, I don't think the Eagles are as cohesive as the Commanders. I don't think the Eagles love each other as much as the Commanders love each other. I'm taking that team in Washington to win.
Yeah, I feel that, bro. They're playing good ball right now. But honestly, if you look at them, they're pretty similar teams. If you really take a second to slow and think about it, it's pretty similar.
Jayden Daniels has this magic right now. This team is just playing. No one is going to give the Commanders a chance. And there's just a little bit of, and if you look back at the last time they played, the Commanders stormed back against this Eagles team with everybody rolling, and the Commanders beat them. So I think there's a little magic in these cleats down there in Washington. I'm going to take the team of destiny, the Washington Commanders.
And let's talk about a very familiar matchup. I feel like we always see this matchup at this time of year. Once again, we got the Bills and Chiefs. Josh Allen, my homeboy. I don't know what the all-time record is between the two of them, but we're going to have to see something else again. And
Josh Allen hasn't.
I ain't going to lie, bro. Even though I took the Chiefs edged in the win, I think the Bills going to beat them. That's just me now, baby. I think the Bills is coming in.
Going into Arrowhead, Josh Allen hasn't beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs yet. Is that Yet. Okay. There we go. Yeah. Key word.
Right, alarm. Right here.
All right. Before we get into this one, we got to talk about, and obviously we had Torrey on talking about the Ravens. Lamar did everything. Lamar is going to win a championship in the NFL. And I feel like he did everything yesterday. I mean, he had the 2 turnovers. Those were massive. You can't turn the ball over. And then you had the Mark Andrews plays where he fumbles it, and then he drops the 2-point conversion. Lamar brought the team back, put the team on his back, and they just came up a little bit short. Like, give me your thoughts on the Lamar turnovers, the Mark Andrews plays, like what your thoughts on that game were?
Well, my thought. So one thing I loved in Lamar's post-game interview, and they almost tried to railroad him for a quick second. I seen the headline, and it made you think they was talking about Mark Andrews.
Exactly.
He only talked about his mistakes. You know, I think a lot of people appreciated that and respected that. But that watching it really did look like a team loss. Like there was moments in that game where it's just like, yo, y'all blowing it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, that pick was very interesting. You know, the overthrown pick, but it's like, you know, it was inevitable. Fumbling the snap, he gets up trying to make something shake. It's not like he planned to fumble that ball. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Hear me out. Third quarter. Why are you going for 2 to try to tie the game? Just kick the extra point. You're down by 1. If you just kick that extra point, you're down by 1. Now you're not forced to go for 2 at the end of that game. You know what I mean? That's the things I don't think a lot of people are going to go back and look at. Right there, that's a coaching decision. Why are you going for 2 in the third quarter?
Chasing points early on in the game.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, just that alone, what are we doing?
My only thought for why I'm for them going for it is because you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. They're unstoppable in those situations. The fact that they didn't get either one of them is crazy because they should have gotten the one obviously at the end to Mark Andrews. He basically had it in the end zone and then just fell through his arms.
He dropped
I just think when you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, the odds of you completing it, I like that. I like living by. They've done that all season long, so that's part of their identity. I just wish that game would have had extra football. That game deserved to go to overtime. Here's the thing, actually, it wouldn't have gotten to overtime. Josh Allen would have had almost 2 minutes and would have had 2 timeouts and had to get in the field goal range. I think Josh Allen would have got the job done. I got the Chiefs winning this one. The Chiefs are going to get redemption for what happened early on in the season. The Bills probably are a little bit. Look, Ravens beat up on the Bills. The Bills got back at them. The Chiefs got beat up by the Bills. Now they're going to get back at the Bills. Or the Chiefs got beat up by the Bills. Now they're going to get back at them again. I don't know how many times someone's going to beat Patrick Mahomes twice in a season. I don't think it's actually doable. So give me the Chiefs.
We're about to find out. It's just funny you say like you don't know how many times someone could beat Patrick Mahomes twice in a season, but like everyone's always saying, are they beating Mahomes or are they beating the refs?
Yeah,
so it's like, I don't know. I see a lot of buzz from the last game against the Texans. What'd you see?
Texans defense played great. Like the Texans defensive line played great. Who played terrible for them is the offensive coordinator, the offensive line, and C.J. Stroud. Like I really was not impressed. In the biggest situations, at the biggest moments of that game, all 3 collapsed. All 3 had issues. There was bad protections that were called. C.J. Stroud never even gave himself a chance to like adjust the protection. I'm seeing Jayden Daniels do it against the Detroit Lions. Like, don't tell me second year in the league, going to the divisional round, you can't check protections. They have guys coming unblocked. And then the offensive line. Like, do we not know how to block fundamental protections? Like, they just didn't do it time and time again. Texans are getting just destroyed by Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense. And it's just typical Chiefs. They're going to beat you any which way. They're going to beat you returning kicks. They're going to beat you on defense. They're going to beat you with coaching staff. They beat you every which way, and obviously at quarterback. So I look at that game, and the Texans got to continue to grow, and they got to grow quickly because that was embarrassing how they finished that game. And the kicker missing field goals, like it was just everything. Like you can't give Patrick Mahomes multiple chances. He's going to take advantage, and they're going to beat you every single time. Well, AJ, this was a unique episode. We learned a lot. Our guest was amazing. Appreciate you two-time, Torrey.
Two-time Tor.
Another good episode. Look forward to a great weekend of football. Odds are, we won't call anything correct. Probably be the Commanders and the Bills in the Super Bowl. But that's the beauty of this game, right?
But that's very possible, and that's why my odds, I'm keeping them right here in the bar graph. And again, make sure y'all let me know what y'all odds are down in the comments. But until we find out who's right and who's wrong, y'all stay beautiful.